Hello and welcome to the Fall in Love with Teams webinar series. My name is Nikki Klickus. I am an Office 365 consultant with WM Reply out of the Chicago office. And today we're joined with LiveTiles to discuss Wizdom for Teams, a really unique solution that brings multiple benefits to your organization. And with me from LiveTiles is John Wesley.
Hello, everybody. This is John Wesley. I'm a Senior Solutions Specialist here at LiveTiles, coming to you from Drury, mid-Michigan today. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, John. Just a quick intro for Wizdom for Teams. It provides access to workplace tools and information from one central place, across SharePoint and Teams. It meets businesses' need for governance, and it really improves findability, not just of content, but also of colleagues, which always drives greater productivity and collaboration. And I just want to point out that we do have a QA window, chat window available, so please feel free to post your comments or post questions throughout this webinar. So jumping right in, employees experience throughout their day several different applications that they need to log into to do their work. So they're losing time from stopping one set of work, logging into another application, finding those credentials sometimes to log into that application, because not everything is single sign-on, as we've seen. So they're definitely losing time, and then they're also losing focus. So if I'm in the middle of sending out an email, or if I'm in the middle of doing some work with another colleague for a specific project task, and then I have to stop what I'm doing, find my credentials, or if I have those credentials, log into a different system, the time and focus that I lose to get back into my mindset is really significant sometimes. And what we're seeing is also a loss of important information. So when you have notification overload coming at you from various different systems, it's hard to sometimes not miss a important piece of information or a question that somebody's asking in order for them to continue their work as well. And these numbers are just phenomenal. So what we saw with Microsoft Teams back in November of 2019, Teams had about 20 million users, which is phenomenal, by itself. 20 million is a great usage, great rollout of their product. But by beginning of March, they were already hitting 32 million users. Now, with the mandated work from home policy that many organizations are forced to enact, those numbers have jumped from beginning of March to mid-March to over 40 million users. So certainly, businesses, organizations across the globe are really relying on Teams to continue having their employees engaged and continue to do their business as usual. But can Teams alone really improve productivity and reduce user frustration? John, what have you seen?
If you think about what Teams is truly capable of, obviously on the surface, you would think yes, right? It's more than just a chat tool. It's more than just a telephony tool. It's more than just a replacement for, Skype and Skype for Business. It really is a place where you can collaborate with team members and allow users to have a more centralized place to really get their work done. And when you think about the context of the users, no two users are really going to want to use Teams exactly the same. So, I know some users that are happy using it as a chat platform. Others that are constantly spinning up Teams so that they can keep their tight little departmental or line of business groups informed on key activities, even within a department. Others rely on it just for the video chat, like we are today. And of course, the work from home mandate has really elevated that need for all of these different features. And so what ends up happening is you're ultimately leaving users, kind of leaving them to their own devices, right? It's kind of like letting horses out of the pen. Is that they're not all going to run one direction, you know, they go all sorts of different directions. And so ultimately what we're looking at is, because of the extreme popularity, because of the power of Teams, and wanting members to be able to collaborate, to interact, to connect, to easily, you know, share video back and forth, you get a huge number of teams. But when a team is created, you also get a large Office 365 workload. And you don't want to limit your users, so you lose control in just how many teams are being spun up. It promotes a low findability of teams that may already be out there. Duplicate teams, you know, team sales versus sales teams, and a lot of other things that go on. And users ultimately employ, you know, shadow IT to use Teams to get around potentially other channels, because they really do want that one app to rule them all. Bad Lord of the Rings reference there, but it really is kind of what they're after, right? Think about all the different times you either Alt-Tab to switch between applications, Outlook to PowerPoint to Teams over to, you know, it just goes on and on. And Nikki, I imagine at WM Reply, with what you're seeing in helping customers deploy Teams, you're probably seeing a lot of the similar challenges.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that, you know, we sometimes overlook is the, you know, generation gap that we're seeing within our organizations today. So we have, you know, millennials that are so used to being connected in their home life, iPhones, iWatch, iPad, you know, their you know, level of connectivity is really high, and they expect that when they come into their work, right? And then we have, you know, on the other end of the spectrum, we have our older generation, which are perfectly happy in email. They don't see a problem, you know, working in email and continuing business as usual. And I think Teams really does bridge that gap and bring together, you know, the gap in the generations, but also in the work styles, right? So some people might really use chat more. Other people, you know, might, you know, rely on their global teams to bring them together and have different channels, right, for each of the teams or for specific projects. But the one thing that we have seen across the board with the different clients that have already implemented Teams and are using Teams is how they're all saying how easy it is to have everything in one place, especially when it comes time to having meetings, right? So from the minute you create a meeting, you can start a chat. You can add your agenda in the chat. You can share files. You don't have to switch within different systems and then figure out, you know, where was the agenda? Who asked the question? Where was the file? You can record your meeting session, which is awesome. And then you don't have to worry about where you're going to put the recording so everybody can have it or access it, right? You can leave it all within the chat window. So some really great benefits, and really across the board, we're seeing people more and more. And like you said, with this work from home policy, everybody's relying on Teams, whether they already had it implemented or they're just starting to implement Teams. They're already seeing all the benefits, you know, that Teams can offer them.
Yeah, and you know what we aim to do here at LiveTiles is we're looking for, you know, to drive an even higher level of adoption within Teams. Teams is it's helping, but it really is to some users another app. And so what we're looking to do with our Wizdom for Teams platform is we want to be able to make data and profile information readily accessible, right? Help stop that proliferation of data across many different apps and provide a unified platform to where users can really get their work done, right? Minimize that disruption, and do so with a level of personalization that users spend more time working and less time looking for stuff they need to do their work. And finally, tying that all together through levels of process automation to help make the users more efficient. And so with that, I am going to share my screen and I will take you through LiveTiles Wizdom for Teams demonstration. All right. So our Wizdom for Teams platform is really designed to deliver that personalized experience, the data, the apps, the information the users need to do their job directly where they're working day in and day out, and that is in Microsoft Teams. And we do this through the Power Panel. And so the Power Panel, it's a side-loaded app that really connects all of the organization's critical apps and information into the end user. And so technically, this is something that a lot of organizations have done within their traditional intranets, but Teams just adds another layer of where now I'm flipping back and forth between news and comms and information that's on my intranet versus Teams where I'm actually doing my collaboration. And so with our Power Panel, we're able to allow organizations to, first of all, they can configure the setup to meet their needs. Okay, so whatever is important to your organizations, and be able to provide one location. So if important alerts are coming out, specific to, these say IT alerts here and other third-party system alerts, which can automatically be pulled in. But you think about the comms that may have gone out as far as starting tomorrow, we are implementing a work from home policy, right? Is you would want to be able to effectively communicate that and hopefully be able to do so without necessarily relying on email distribution lists or other channels of communication. And so the Wizdom Power Panel can help with that need, right? We can trigger alerts from documented news that goes out and alert individuals directly in Teams, or even further through the Teams mobile app, right? So users are receiving push alerts for these critical alerts. And as I mentioned, you think of other apps that are out there that users have to interact with on a day-to-day basis, such as their HRIS. So systems like Workday, PeopleSoft, SuccessFactors, right? Putting in travel requests, leave requests, or being notified that these things have been put in and require your attention. We provide a platform where we can pull in those HRIS or IT ticket alerts and directly alert individuals that there are things that you need to act on that don't necessarily require you to fire open that app on your cell phone, to go to the Workday app on your desktop browser. You can see those alerts, get what's relevant to you, don't have to change applications.
And I think something to point out too is, we always think of organizations and corporations and everybody's in an office, right? Or everybody's working from home, but that's not always the case. There's frontline workers, there's, so many different situations where somebody isn't necessarily in front of a computer screen, in front of a laptop, and they are relying on their cell phone. So having a one-stop shop, right? One place, a central location to get all of your notifications, no matter what system is, sending out those communications, is key, especially to these frontline workers.
Yeah, and if you think about the cell phone's the great analogy to information overload, right? If you think about your typical iPhone or Android, the number of banner alerts that may pop up on your phone is how many of those do you actually look at, right? You see the logo and you just kind of dismiss it. So being able to know that things that are coming through the Teams app are work sensitive, they're potentially important. You don't just dismiss it or not look at it. It's there, right there in your face. The same thing was for other, line of business news, right? Is in that idea of information delivery, not all information is relevant to every individual. So being able to have targeted news posts through channel delivery of, say, our notice board. So being able to opt in and opt out of specific news that you want to receive while still receiving information that organizations want you to receive. But furthermore, I'm not reliant, again, on email or my intranet to publish departmental content, right? Is that right here from my browser, whether it's a departmental piece of content, piece of news that I want everyone to see, I can very quickly spin that up and get it out to the organization. I don't have to worry about flipping apps. Same thing goes for important news articles that may need to be created. Because the backbone of Teams is SharePoint, being able to integrate into your SharePoint environment and create actual news posts directly from your Teams environment is an incredible capability that I know a lot of marketing and comms people would love to have, right?
And the nice thing too is the screen you were just on, it was nice to see that there was a banner, there was an image, there was a logo coming through, and more and more we're finding organizations and clients, even just recently I was in a call yesterday, and their main concern, I mean, obviously they had some business objectives that they wanted to meet, but their main concern was that their branding was going to be front and center.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the Wizdom for Teams platform gives you that full flexibility, right? At an almost nauseating granular level, right? Right down to the little hover icons. You can choose the color, you can pick the branding guidelines, so everything's on brand. But furthermore, other customers we've run into, we see a lot of this SharePoint or Teams story when it comes to doing intranet content. And so I hope what you're seeing here is that you're really blending the best of both worlds, right? It's kind of that unification of comms creation and delivery that the Wizdom for Teams platform really promotes and makes accessible to users.
And what about the governance around there? So not everybody will have the opportunity, right, to create news or push notifications out, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So you're basically talking about let's get those horses back inside the fence, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Wizdom for Teams platform comes with an entire provisioning and governance engine that is intended to do just that. So it's that fine balance between allowing users the access to requests to do what they want to do, right? I want to create a collaboration space, but also proactively provide the right set of rules, templates, metadata in the forefront, so IT is not left scrambling after the fact to figure out, were these sites set up appropriately. And so from an end user's perspective, when they go in to request a team, again, showcasing the way Teams is natively connected to SharePoint, it's more than just Teams, MS Teams sites. It's really any site across your entire SharePoint site collections, right? And so these templates, they do a couple different things. One, they are true templates. So behind the scenes, your team site is being spun up with the appropriate tabs, the right channels predetermined, your SharePoint site, so whether that's a communication site, a department site, whatever the case may be, they have the right page template deployed. You get to dictate which web parts are associated on there. So basically, you're getting directed into the organizational preferred setup of the site right out of the box. And so by way of example, just to showcase this, let's say I do a team site. We were able to abstract and request a configurable layer of metadata above and beyond what Teams is going to collect, right? And your choices to which are mandatory and which are optional. So I can go in, fill out all of this metadata that the organization has required, and then there's a second layer of metadata that comes into place. So Are there going to be guest users? Who are the members of the team? And who are the owner or owners? And now, by way of comparison, if I jump back and let's say I want to do a project site, you'll see that there are a few additional fields, like what's the project phase? Is this a private or a public site within the organization? And are we going to allow external sharing of the information as well, along with project end dates? Okay. But then the roles are slightly different as well. So making sure you have a mandatory secondary owner, so that way you've got two levels of ownership in case one person maybe changes roles or whatever the case may be. So with this, you're provisioning every site to a set of corporate governance requirements, but then this is where the governance engine really kicks in. Is those sites aren't automatically created. They are instead.
That was going to be my next question.
Yep, they're not just stood up. You're not allowing the SharePoint site collections to just sprawl out of control. Instead, they're going to go through a review process. So a lot of those things we talked about before the demo, the sites without owners, the duplicate sites, even the workload, as far as what groups and what things are getting spun up behind the scenes, those are more tightly controlled by an approver, right? Making sure, do I have the right metadata? Does it have the right owner? Does this team already exist? Maybe I don't even need to allow this site to get created. I'm just going to add this person to a collaboration workspace that's already available. And then after the team's created, this same process can be invoked to manage the life cycle of your teams that are out there. So based on the metadata that was collected, or even more importantly, maybe you've got a bunch of sites that were created before the implementation of Wizdom for Teams. The governance lifecycle module can actually monitor all sites that were created before Wizdom for Teams, as well as anything created after. So think of it as a way to kind of clean up the past. Right? Mm-hmm. Ensure that those items will go into a review structure to where that metadata does get collected, and go ongoing, those sites will be findable, they'll be locatable. And so just by way of example, you know, the ease of findability with Wizdom for Teams, you know, it gives you a layer of findability that you don't have natively in Teams. So for example, being able to say, I want to set a filter on area, you can quickly locate all of your IT department pages with a couple quick filters, and you can set multiple filters, you can search across, and you're not just searching team sites, you're searching the entire set of sites that are out there. So be it, you know, SharePoint project sites or MS Teams sites. So it really does give you full control over all of your collaboration spaces.
And everything that is returned to you in the results are security trimmed. So you don't have to worry about, you know, what I'm searching for and what results are presented back to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you bring that up, because security trimming is you know, something that obviously you want to invoke the right permissions, but at the same time, you don't necessarily want to overly limit individuals. So yes, you do want to show them the information that's relevant to them, whether that's results from the teams. But that's another place where Wizdom for Teams really shines, is we have a feature called audience targeting. And so this power panel could be completely different on a user by user basis, depending on what information you want to target. So by way of example, you know, let's look at an HR dashboard, right? One, you can see that it's more than just your static kind of informational dashboards, right? This is an embedded Power BI dashboard. Notice I didn't have to flip out to Power BI. I didn't have to open my Power BI workspaces, right? But this is an HR dashboard. You're looking at new hires and potentially getting access to some sensitive data. This little widget within the Power Panel can be targeted or security trimmed depending on who the user is in a specific location, right? What role are they in? What department are they in? What location are they in? And then you target the information effectively. And so they can have access to it as long as they meet the targeting criteria. And again, it's all about that streamlining of presenting the information through apps natively in a single location.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, users, myself included, I really don't care which app I'm going to, or which software I'm using. I just want to be able to get my work done. So whether that's in Power BI or a SharePoint site or a Teams channel, having the ability to have everything within this window working in one location is key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think back to what you said at the onset is why Teams has been so popular is, that contextual inline information. So a meeting you had, somebody does a recording. Yes, it's housed in Stream, but it's readily available right there in kind of the general channel. However, what happens when that meeting that you had the recording for was 90 days old, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like, there was something that was said in that meeting that I need to go back and get. Well, then, you're either searching or scrolling through hoping to find it, but that's where the extensibility of the platform across the entire Office framework comes in, is being able to link in the stream videos, right? So things that were targeted for you, things that potentially you were a part of that are security trimmed and targeted, now show up directly in here. So imagine a single location where those recordings show up and become findable, searchable. And again, I didn't have to flip to my chat window. I didn't have to flip over to Stream. It's all accessible in a single location.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely see the benefit. I mean, just, myself, as a user of all of these tools, I definitely see the benefit of, being in that one window. Teams alone, having like we said, the opportunity to have, everything in one location, especially when it comes to meetings and when you're working with global teams, everybody being able to chat and, organize and group those chats in a specific project or a region is very, very useful. But just adding on this layer of not just Teams, but all of your Office 365, stack can be accessible in this one location. I mean, it's a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. And I think maybe just one more thing I want to hit upon, because it is relevant here now today, is just some of the other things that the Power Panel can bring to life. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a different page. Share, and now this is our Wizdom platform, but the Power Panel is the same. The context is the same. I just can't show it because of the context of being in the Teams meeting. But I want to show you just how effectively it can be used in your real everyday business. This is our own intranet. This is our Power Panel, but this is also available in our native Teams Power Panel as well. And so immediately, as soon as the work from home orders went out, we spun up a high important informational module within our Power Panel that is linking in things like RSS feeds, important updates within our organization, important updates from the World Health Organization, travel bans, all pertinent information. And this is just some high level stuff. If I scroll down, there are all kinds of links to internal resources we have if users or people in our organization have questions. And literally this was spun up overnight, no coding, minimal configuration, just kind of pointing it to the appropriate data sources. And we started getting these updates and consuming them right in Teams where a lot of us were working. So I think it is definitely, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how we use it internally, especially to deliver very, very important content given where we're at today. So
yeah. No, absolutely. And the fact that it's accessible, on any device, and you're getting those notifications and being able to read the communications in one location is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at the end, I just, want to restate that the Power Platform, the Wizdom for Teams platform, the Power Panel, is really aimed again at getting profile and data in a unified experience, personalized to the user, in an efficient, effective way, just so that users don't spend a lot of time jumping between apps and can, get their work done. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, as we stated earlier, the time lost, the focus, lost that employees are, having to deal with jumping around is huge. But I thank you so much for joining us today. This was so informative, and I think really useful, especially in the times that we're in, with a lot of organizations working from home and really providing their employees easy transition into working from home and accessing all news and communications. So I do thank you so much for joining us, John. And just to remind everybody that we still have 2 more webinars with regards to our Fall in Love with Teams series. Our next one is April 15th, and that is with Sideways 6, where we will be exploring how you can achieve better business results through employee ideas. And then our final webinar in this series will be April 29th, and that is we are partnering with Microsoft to discuss the adoption for transitioning from Skype to Teams. So please go out and register via Eventbrite. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to John, myself, our senior leadership team here at WM Reply out of the Chicago office, Richard Ackerman, which is our managing partner, and also Jesse Narducci, which is our Office 365 adoption practice lead. Again, thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed this series. Thank you.